Hey there everyone, welcome to PW Skills. My name is Hitesh and welcome to this new amazing fresh video and a kind of a starting point for your web development journey. Now I totally 100% can relate with you that getting started in the web development can be really confusing, and especially in this era, in this paradigm, it's really much more confusing than it used to be like 5 years ago or 10 years ago. There is so much to learn, yet there is no clear path that from where we should get started. And there is no mystery about it. The web development journey always and always starts with HTML. There is no exception. There might be newer frameworks like React or maybe some Minion or maybe something like Node.js or Angular. There's a lot of them. But it is a fact that the journey of the web development still starts with HTML, and there is no exception to it. You can use tools like React to automatically generate a lot of HTML for you and dynamic content on that. But the reality will remain the reality. It is all about HTML and you need to master your basics of HTML first. Now obviously there are two ways of mastering the HTML as well. The first one is learn just the enough so that you can build any kind of web applications and pages, and eventually over the time if you learn something or if you want to do something really specific, you learn that part. Maybe that part is related to semantics, maybe that part is related to accessibility. There's a lot of things in HTML too as well. And then there is a other side of scenario of how to get started with HTML. That is, I want to do a PhD in HTML. Yes, both approaches are totally okay and there is no right or wrong in this case. We really need to pick up our approach. If you have enough time, go depth into it, read line by line of every single documentation that is written on MDN or W3 Schools, wherever is your favorite platform. But I'll choose a different approach in this video. In this video, my goal is to make sure that you feel absolute confident about HTML. You're not scared about the 1,000 and 2,000 tags which are available, but rather you understand that, okay, these are special tags and I can use them to build a web application or a website or a web page. And I'm comfortable with this. If there is anything new, I can learn it on the go. I know how to hunt things from the documentation and I can find out and figure out things on the go. So that is what the goal is, and I'll help you to achieve in this goal. Now that you understand that what HTML is, I'll definitely talk more about it, but that's the reality. We want to go into web development. This is how we are going to get started. Now the next big question is, who is the target audience for this particular video? Now, if you are somebody who already have seen or built application with React, Angular, knows a little bit about JavaScript, probably this video tutorial is not going to be that fruitful for you. Always there is something you can learn, but not going to be that much useful. The intended target audience for this video is simply somebody who has never touched the HTML, want to get started with it, and want to build a couple of web pages and see how the architecture of a web page actually looks like and what are the few things which we can understand and a whole bunch of things. So this is targeted to absolute beginner who is just getting started in web development, and I'm pretty sure you're going to absolutely love this. Remember, the number one goal is to build confidence in you so that you can build web pages without any concern. That's my goal. Alright, so enough of this, let's get started. I usually go with the hands-on approach. There is no need of presentation, there is no need of fancy writing on the pads and iPads. We can just write the code and learn things on the go. So for this, we need some tools and we need to figure out how we can actually get started. So I'll walk you through with the absolute basic setup. Any laptop, any computer will be able to handle this. It is just a basic HTML page. It doesn't really matter whether you have high-end computers or not. It will absolutely work for you. So now let me take you onto the screen part. So first of all, a couple of documentation. We need to study. It's not like I know everything, I'll teach you everything. You also need to study on your own. So I'll recommend you a couple of web pages. The first one is simple, the developer Mozilla. In case you don't find it, just search for MDN HTML. This will be the first page where you'll land up. And this is a documentation. So this documentation is all about HTML, what tags are available, what are the key resources. On the left side, there is HTML basics, introduction, multimedia, tables, whatnot. Everything that is required is useful for you and is available here. On the right hand side is the page guide on which portion of the page you want to jump in. And this is how usually the documentations are written. This will give you enough of good habit that you understand that how to read the documentation, which is generally a part of a life of a web developer. He reads a lot of documentation. But please don't shy away from simply following the things on W3 School as well. A lot of people hate it. I'm not a hater of W3 Schools. In fact, I consider this as a great resource. Quick jump in. Instead of jumping into here, maybe you want to learn something about links. You can quickly go there, and just with a quick links, you can find the syntax, what are the things available. So there is no harm in jumping into W3 School as well. In fact, I'll walk you through with that as well. There is no point of hiding these things. These are resources. Everybody uses them. So instead of shying away from them, let's use them at their best. So these are two things which are documentation. We'll be referring them quite a lot. And then comes up the 𝐿. Now this is one thing which is less talked, but this is the meat and potato of the entire dish. Yes. 𝐿 actually allows you to write a lot of things faster, so much faster that it's not even possible to write them with the bare hands in the HTML. I really don't have the time to start an angular bracket, then write an h1, then the angular bracket, then again angular bracket / h1 close. No, I really don't want to do that. I want some helping hands for that. And 𝐿 is one such helping hand. How to use that? I'll walk you through. Don't you worry in that part. Then comes up where we are going to write the things. Yep. Now, I absolutely don't like when people just write their code in TextPad, Notepad. They're not built for that. They are the text-taking tool. They are formatting tools. We don't want a word formatter. We want a word editor. There's a difference between them. Formatter allows you to have things like bold, italics. I don't want you to have them. I want you to simply have the ability to edit the words. That is the word editor. There are few good options available in the market. I'll definitely pick one of them, but I would love to give you the choices if you want to go with another one of them. The first one, the OG of the text editors, which is still on there, my system, which is known as Sublime Text. Great updates, great things, and it's very lightweight, amazing code suggestion to code reading. For larger projects, it just snaps, very snappy, very fast, all the good things about this one. Available for all Linux, Mac, Windows. That's great for us. Another one is the popular talk of the town these days, VS Code, and this is exactly what I'll be choosing for this particular tutorial. But feel free to choose any one of them. We are just writing some code, and feel free to write it on wherever you are comfortable, except the TextPad and Notepad. So this is what we'll be using. It is from Microsoft. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't like it, but this is the fact. This is given to us by the Microsoft team, and that's what we'll be using in this entire course. There's also new, not new, but it's actually kind of a new for me. I'm very comfortable these days with NeoVim. A little bit tech savvy, but I'm enjoying this a lot these days. In case you want to give it a try, feel free to give that. I wanted to introduce it, so I have introduced it, but in case you don't like it, that's okay. I'm enjoying NeoVim these days. But I'll go back onto VS Code because a lot of tutorials are on VS Code. You are on VS Code, so I'll walk you through with the VS Code part only. All right, so VS Code is installed on my system. I'll just open up a new window of VS Code. So this is how VS Code looks like. You don't need much of these fancy themes and tools. By the way, before we jump into this, a few FAQ. This theme is custom designed. I have designed it. I have not rolled it out yet. So feel free to pick any theme or the default theme of the VS Code. I'll publish it very soon whenever I get time. But as of now, you don't need tons of extension. You just need one, which is a live server. Just click up here onto this one and just look for the live server. So we can simply go ahead and work with the live server. And this one is by 𝐿𝐇𝐘𝐒. Just click on install. Just like here, it will get a button like install. Just click on the install and that's it. You don't need anything else. We won't be working on anything else. It's all just okay. Now, apart from this, you need a directory where we'll be keeping all of our HTML code, HTML files. So go ahead and click and create a new folder. I'll call this one as HTML -skills. I think that's a good name. And we'll just drag and drop this guy up here, and that's it. That is all the setup that you need. So I'll be just expanding this so that we can take full advantage of the real estate, the screen real estate that is available to us. And nice. All right. Okay. Now the approach that we are using for this particular tutorial is not just walk you through with, hey, this is an h1 tag, this is an h2 tag. I'll give you the basics of it. But the better approach is to simply have a kind of a project structure. So first we'll get the basics, then we'll go through with a small project, couple of pages of how we usually build it. And then I'll go back and start the basics from W3 schools and the MDN docs to give you more idea of how you can study some things in depth as well. So first basics, then the project, and then in depth. So this is how the project or the entire long video is going to be scheduling in that part. Alright, so first and foremost is what we're going to do is we're going to create a couple of projects and folders. So let's go ahead and create a new folder, and we're going to call this one as simply basics. You can also do the exact same, no problem there. Now inside this basics, I'll create a new file, and we're going to call this one as one.html. Feel free to name your file whatever you like, and I'll walk you through that how the naming convention works and everything. But first we need to get started with the basics. Alright. So the first thing that we're going to learn about is how we can write HTML faster. Let me walk you through with that. So HTML is one of the most simplest structure to go ahead and work on with this. Although VS Code helps you a lot in writing HTML, but writing HTML in a conventional way can be really difficult. So I'll walk you through that how you can speed write the HTML that will actually, you will enjoy the process of writing HTML instead of taking this as a pain point. So the usual syntax is you start the HTML. So simply go ahead in the HTML document, make sure the extension is HTML. In some of the tutorials or old documents, you'll find that the extension used to be HTM also. It's still supported, but it's not a good convention nowadays anymore. You just go with the HTML, so everything works with that. Now inside this HTML document, there are some things that you always have to write. That is simply start with HTML. So simply go ahead, write the HTML, start with angular bracket, then HTML, then close this one. And then you have to simply write this portion as well. Although in this case, the VS Code is suggesting us, but in most of the cases, especially something if you're using other editor or some not so good editor, then it will ask you to write angular bracket slash then HTML, the closing tag and all of that. We'll discuss more about this, which one is tag, which one is an element and all of this. This is really nice and interesting discussion to have. But this is how you start. This is an HTML document. HTML document has two major portions of it. First one being a simple head, just like this, and apart from this there is a body. Now here's a trick. You can simply go ahead and write a body and simply use the tab key or just enter for the emit abbreviation. We'll talk about that, and this is how your body tags automatically comes. Now this is a completely valid HTML syntax and structure, although it doesn't display anything on the website because this is empty. We are just using some tags, but this is simply to give a document an idea that why we are printing something which we want to print. Maybe want to print something as a headline, maybe want to print something as a paragraph. So which is the guy who's differentiating between them? These tags are important. But writing every single time this much is not enough. There are some documents and a whole bunch of things that we have to write. And in order to actually make our life easier so that we don't have to every single time start this, imagine how it is to get started with H1 like this and then closing tag and saying this is heading. This will not be a great learning experience, and in my particular subjective matter, this is not a good idea. So for this, we actually need to study a little bit about this one, emit. But before that, make sure you understand this part, that an HTML is divided into two portions, the first one being head, the second one being body. Head is usually the non-visible part except one or two elements. Body is 100% visible part on the HTML document. I'll walk you through with that. So for example, let's go back with the H1 again and say this is a skill heading. So this is a skill heading. Now save it. Now if you have installed the live server, which I asked you, simply go ahead, right click, and you'll find the option of open with live server. This is super easy to see, open with live server. Yep, exactly that. Just click on this and it will open up the things onto your live server, and there we go. Notice here it says 127.0.0, which is your local host. On the port number 5500, inside the basics /1.html is being served to you. Just like a web server in the real world production serves your web pages, this is also exactly a server which serves your web pages. A server is nothing, it's just a service which actually serves you something. Maybe a mail service, maybe an HTML service. So this is what we have. Alright, this is great what we have, but now we need to bring our focus onto this emit and why it is super important. And you might have already seen this, that as soon as I write something, there are some suggestion to me like which says emit abbreviation. So emit is something which is pre-default and pre-configured in the VS Code. But in other editors like NeoVim, Sublime Text, you actually have to download it and have to install it this. There are different ways of doing it. So if I click on the download, you can see it is available for Sublime Text, it is available for Dreamweaver in case somebody uses that still, brackets, whole bunch of third-party supports are available. So you have to actually go ahead and install it for this one. Good thing is we are on the VS Code, so we don't need to do the installation part of it. we can directly click on this documentation and start understanding what the emit is, what it does, and what this is all about. So in the abbreviation, there is a syntax available, and this is what it does. So you can generate a whole lot of elements by using the syntax of childs and all of that. We'll talk about them, but this is just the basics of how things actually can work. So behind the scene in the VS Code, emit is working, which is helping you to write faster HTML. Let's take some advantage of it and try to understand some of the basic elements and how things are actually working, what they are being used, and how they are being done in the HTML, and whole bunch of things. So let's go ahead and start the journey a little bit again. So I'll go inside the body again, and I'll write some things for you. So first and foremost, when I say simply h1, this h1 inside the curly braces is known as tag name. So this h1 is a tag name. So in this case, at line number 4, this is h1 tag. Similarly, we have p tag for paragraph. So this is known as tag name. Now, an element is something which is comprises of the opening tag, the content inside it, and the closing tag. So this is known as an element in HTML. Now, there are a lot of other names for it. As you move into the world of JavaScript, you find it. There is a node list, there is HTML document list. There's a lot of things named for it. But as of now, it is really important for us to just focus that this is a tag name and this entire thing is an element. So there could be more thing inside this, like this is a tag, and this entire thing is an element. Starting h1, inside content, and the end tag. There are a couple of naming syntax. You really need to understand this, and you should focus this. This h1 here is an opening tag. This h1 here is an end tag. Whatever is inside here, this is known as content, and this whole thing makes up as an HTML element. I hope the vocabulary is now clear to everyone. And it's not really compulsory that every opening tag should have a closing tag. There are some elements which doesn't have the closing tag. For example, the image tag, it doesn't have any closing tag. Maybe you are learning later on React or something. In that case, you can just add a slash here. This is also perfectly valid. There is also a line break known as BR tag, which doesn't have any end tag. So in that case, also you can just use this syntax to make it an end tag. It is not syntactically correct to simply go up here and say that, hey, I want to close it like this. So I'll just write it like this, IMG. So this is not even a thing. So you don't want to write that. All right. So now that you understand briefly of how things can be done, now can we take advantage of the emit so that you can actually enjoy writing HTML instead of just doing this? Okay, let me show you how the emit can be super powerful in this case. So one way of writing the things is simply saying that h1 and writing this is a paragraph. And in case not a paragraph, actually this is a heading. So we'll go with the heading. Now in case there is a paragraph and you're writing this is a paragraph. Paragraph. And in the case of paragraph, what we have is we don't want to have just 2 lines of words here. We obviously can save it and we can see that there is a paragraph available for us. Really nice and really easy to have this thing available to us. The problem is paragraph should be more than the 3 or 4 words. It should be like 100 words. But writing these gibberish, I've seen a lot of initial beginners just write these gibberish. Not a good idea. This actually is not a good thing, and it will distract you too much. And if you just copy and paste it from somewhere, maybe you are here and you want to copy and paste this one, how long you'll be finding these things to simply copy and paste into your paragraph? Not a good idea. Not a good idea. It works, but not a good idea. Not a good idea. If I see up here, not a good idea. Let's just say this is not enough. So what you'll be doing, copying and pasting it 100 times? Not a good idea. So one of the best way of doing the things is simply use emit. Emit has some special keywords. For example, you can use lorem and then decide how many words you want. Let's just say you want 300 words. So just write 300 after it, hit the tab or the enter, and it will give you 300 words. Save it, and now you have 300 words so that you can simulate anything that you like. How the paragraph looks, how the heading looks, how the heading looks when we have so many words, how the heading looks when we have less words. So everything can be done by just with this one. So I'll just simply go ahead and Command Z this one a couple of times. We don't want 300 words, 30 is good enough. If you'll just write and tab right now, this will not work. Notice here, the tab doesn't work. You need to have a pop-up suggestion in order to make it work. So in this case, just go ahead and write 30 again. Now the suggestion is there. Now you can hit the tab or the enter key. How cool it is. All right. Now that we have taken care of how the content will be populated, now let me walk you through one of the superpower of the emit. Usually, you won't be writing your HTML page just like this. A proper syntax structure or the boilerplate code of HTML doesn't look like this. So we'll just remove this and we'll start with an exclamatory sign. And yes, there is a Emmet cheat sheet. I'll walk you through with that so that you can find all the possible suggestions that you can have or the shortcuts that you can have and can work with that. So I'll just hit the exclamation sign and hit the tab key. This is my proper boilerplate code of how an HTML document should be structured. The first one being a doc type HTML. In the earlier days, browser didn't usually used to understand that this is an HTML page or a CSS page or maybe some other PDF. So we have to mention this doc type. This is a syntax of modern HTML5 syntax of writing that this is a document of HTML type. There used to be other document structures as well for XML, HTML4, HTML3. There's a whole bunch of things. We really don't want to study them as of now. This is just a YouTube video. Don't want to do a PhD here, but this is good enough for us. But just to keep you in mind that yes, there used to be other syntax and structures of it. Apart from this, then we simply say HTML, and then we also mention as a property of it that, hey, this is going to be a language English. I'll walk you through what these properties are and what these HTML entities are being mentioned. Attributes, we call them. You can call them properties or you can call them attributes. The usual vocabulary is calling them as attribute, but don't mind if anybody call them as properties. Both are the same things. We'll just keep with the attributes. So this is the attribute which says that the language used in this HTML document is EN, which is English, but there's a lot of other languages available for us. For example, Japan, Russian, Spanish, Hindi, a lot of languages available here. After this, we simply have the two portions of it. This is the head part, this is the body part. As I mentioned, head is a very crucial thing, but anything that you write, apart from few things, the head is usually not visible. Let's go ahead and write an H1 which says and lorem. So we're going to use a lorem of 7 words, just arbitrary number here. Save this. And now we have all this values available up here for us. If I save this, go back up here, we have this one. But also notice at the very top here, we have this document available. This document is coming up from the head. I told you there is nothing too much in the head which is available, but there are few elements which are visible. For example, instead of documents, if I go ahead and say, hey, this is going to be PW skills, good name. So I save this, go back up here, and now notice here it changes to PW skills. Great. Now coming back, we can see that this is how the basics of it work. But what are these meta tags? Now these meta tags are super important for the search engine optimization purposes. I do understand that search engine is not just tags and not just these meta tags. There's a lot more to it. But when your Google comes into scrolling your website, crawling your website, then simply it looks for a lot of meta tags. What are the character sets you are supporting? Maybe UTF-8, maybe UTF-16, maybe you support emojis. So UTF-16 would be a great idea in that case. You also want to give the viewport, like how your content should look like when somebody watches it on mobile, what should be the initial scale level, zoom level, and all of that. Not only that, there are a lot of meta tags available. For example, there is this meta tag for description. So what is the description about this content? Maybe you are building a website for a gym. So we're going to say a web page for gym. So you can go ahead and write a gym for it. Automatically, Google will get to know that this web page actually talks about the gym. So these meta tags and description are useful for somebody who is crawling your website like search engine or maybe some screen reader, something like that. And there is no shortage of these meta tags. A lot of them are available. There are a lot of good resources you can find about them. So if I just go ahead and Google about the meta tag and Google meta tag, there are resources you're going to find which Google recommends you to write these meta tags. There are obviously W3 schools and MDN references as well. But what you're going to find is the tags which actually Google pays a lot of attention to it. So as you can see, there is meta tags for Google bots, robots. We just talked about the description here. We can simply say Google content, no site link search. There's a lot of them. You can do a full research on them as well. No problem at all. You can just go look more for it. Another great exercise that you can do is simply go ahead and write meta, and then you can see all the common ones which are available to you will be given to you in the search result, like compact, description, edge, redirect, refresh rate, how often the content refresh, UTF support, viewports. There's so much of them. So this is usually majorly how it works. So this is what we have, the simple meta tag. Title is simple, the page title, that's it. And that is it. There is nothing too much in the head section apart from just one thing, which is how to get a favicon. You might have noticed the Google has a favicon, a small image. Yes, we call this as a favicon. This one has it, NeoVim has it, VS Code has it, but PW Skills don't have it. So it's a great idea that we can find some of the image which we can actually use. So let's go ahead and try this. We can actually just get a link for it. I'll walk you through in a minute about it because we need to grab an image, download it. I'll do that, don't you worry, but it's super easy. All you have to say is there is going to be a link which we call as favicon. That's it. Suggestions, always use suggestions. You can write the syntax on your own as well, but this is how we write it, this whole piece. I'll walk you through with that in a minute, but right now we don't need it. All right. Now coming back onto the part where we have this lorem, now it's time that we start using a little bit of the VS Code and the emmet much more instead of just writing it H1 like this. Let me show you one more shortcut way of doing the things. Previously we were writing H1, then hitting a tab, and then we were writing lorem and maybe 8 words, 9 words of it. This is usually a good way, no problem in it. But there is another emmet shortcut of using this. You want to have an H1 and then use the arrow sign that inside the H1, I want to have the lorem of 8 words and simply hit the tab and there we go, we have an H1. By the way, this is looking like this because I have a view and inside this there is a word wrap. Yours might not be enabled, so yours things might be going off the screen. I usually keep it on so that I can see everything on one screen. Even if there is a line break enabled, go ahead, do that. I really don't mind. Now, one advantage or one great thing about the HTML is it is little picky about how it sees the line breaks. For example, if I close this, all of this, and go into here, this is how my web page looks like. If I go ahead and enter, hit an enter before the emmet, and notice here automatically my prettier, my formatting is kicking in. But if you just give 2-3 enters, it's not going to be bothering anything. It will not give you a line break on this one. If you really want to have a line break, you have to introduce a tag which we just studied known as BR tag. And once you have this BR tag, now you'll see a line break. So HTML is not like I saw this, hey, this was written like this, so it should be written on the web page like this. No, web page actually has a rendering engine which actually takes all of your HTML element and renders an image on your web page. It's not exactly an image, but it is a rendering process where the canvas is being painted with the text and all these things. So we'll not go into that much of details of rendering and browser engines and all of that, but it's a good thing to know. All right, so quite a basics we have done. Now let me walk you through quickly with the couple of tags that we'll be using. So as I told you, H1 is just one tag. Similarly, we have lot more tags. So for example, there is an H1. Inside this, we'll be having a lorem of 7 words. Similar to this, there is an H2 tag. And similar to this, we can have a lorem of 8 words into it. Still, H1 to we have H6. Nobody uses H6. We can have a lorem of 7 words into it. So this is a hierarchy. Now, never ever trust that the H1 is always going to be bigger than the H6. The size and everything is being utilized via the CSS portion of it. H2 can be much, much bigger than the H1. It doesn't really matter. These H1 and H2 tags are not here to say the height and the sizes of the text, but these are simply available for us just for the emphasis purpose. HTML is a structured language and it just simply focus on how the document is structured, which headlines are more important, which are less important, which is just a text, which is an image. So all these things are mentioned for this one. So make sure you understand that it's for emphasis point, not the height and size. So notice here H1 is here, but I can make it smaller than H2 just with that. But the importance of H1 will always be higher than the H2. So for the importance sake of purpose, these HTML elements and documents are there. Similarly, we can have a paragraph, and let's just say for the paragraph, we'll be having 20 words of lorem. So that's how the paragraph works, and there we go. Now coming back, just like we have H1 and paragraph, these are text tags. We have a lot more tags. And in fact, if you see on the W3 schools, you'll find that, okay, we just talked about the headings. Notice here H1 to H6. Yep, this is exactly what we studied. I could have copied and pasted. That's also one way of doing the things. And it also shows you that headings are important for search engine, not for the visual aesthetics and all of that. Bigger headings can be achieved by styling and all of that. So this is exactly what they are saying. They're also talking about a little bit about the paragraphs. We'll definitely talk more about it, but now let's try to understand a little bit more about the emmet basics. Now, one other thing that I recommend you is simply go onto Google and, oops, my bad. Go ahead onto Google and search for 𝐏𝐇 cheat sheet. That's the one we are looking up for. This 𝐏𝐇 cheat sheet is so much powerful, it will help you to master so many things. Like for example, we are now completely familiar with the lorem, h1. We know that we can simply do that. One of the shortcut that we have already studied is simply having an h1, then arrows, and then some lorem. But also inside the h1, let's just say there is also a tag known as span tag. You want to have a span tag, so you can just write a span and then hit a tab key. Now inside the h1 we have a span. So yes, we can mix and match these tags as well. So there are so many ways how you'll be doing the things. One common tag that you'll be using quite a lot is a div. Div is an empty tag. It's just a wrapper which wraps up. Consider this as a container. You can place a lot of things inside it. Maybe you want to have an h1 tag, an h2 tag, and a paragraph all combined in the container. The way how I'll be doing it is simply by having a div tag. Then inside the div tag, I'll have an h1, which will have a lorem of 7 words maybe. Oops. A lorem of 7 words. And then I'll have an h3 maybe or h4 with a lorem of 7 words again. And then a paragraph with a lorem of 20 words. So this whole thing will be considered as one, and later on when we'll be learning about the CSS, you'll see that it is so much easy to actually focus on this container and achieve a lot of things. So this is what the div is used. Now coming on to the container here, you'll see that there are so many other tags, and everything that you see up here are just tags. So just like this, we have new HTML tags known as nav bars or nav. Inside this, we want to have an unordered list. And inside this, we can have a list item. So there's so many things which we can achieve via this. And these are all super shortcuts. I'll walk you through with these shortcuts in a minute. Now, one of the common questions that comes around at this point of time is, hey Tesh, how will I know that there is a nav link, there is a UL link, there is a LI? Here we can see the P tag, then there's a BQ tag, never heard about it. And what are these UL and LIs and all of them? I understand you. When you're getting started, there is no way that you can truly understand every possible tag which is available. Eventually, as you'll be writing more HTML, you will understand more about it, but there are some common tags which we can go through and learn them and then can start our project. So let me do that quickly and we'll take advantage of the 𝐏𝐇 as well. So first and foremost, we have seen that we have these heading tags and the paragraph. These are known as text tags. And apart from this, there are a lot of text elements. But one of them is ordered list and unordered list. Just like you make your to-do list in your home, this is exactly like that. So ordered list means order is important. And inside this, we can have a list item. And just you can also just tab it like this, and you'll have ordered list inside the inside this. Then is a list item. But you can actually use mathematics here. Not too much hard of that. No Fourier transform or integration or differentiation. Just multiplication by 5, and you'll have 5 list item. Super easy to work with that. Now, just like we have ordered list, we have unordered list where the list order is not that much important. And we can have a list item and we can have again multiplication. So multiplication it by 4 this time. So let me just go ahead and write this. So this one is going to be 1, this one is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5. And again, we'll just go write it here. So this one is 1, this one is going to be 2, this one is going to be 3, and this one is going to be 4. All right. So once I save this, what you'll notice here that, okay, so this is my ordered list where the order is important. So this numbering is also coming 1 dot, then 1, then 2 dot. This is automatically coming because I've mentioned it as ordered list. And here, since the order is not important, that's why you are seeing a bullet list. Now, there are a lot of ways how you can modify this bullet list, and there are a lot of ways how you can do it. But right now, we don't want to go into that. Also, we can again look for the HTML documentation, and you can see there are a lot of attributes, tags, element. You can just look for it, search for it, that how we can go ahead and grab this, or you can just go with the W3 schools, whichever is suited for you, whichever is that, you can just go with that. Here we have the lists, and there we go. We have unordered list, ordered list. There is other list as well, less used. I'll walk you through. But here is a great example, unordered list and an ordered list. So 1, 2, 3, 4, numbering the values, the dots are there. Now we can definitely change these dots and everything. We can definitely go in depth of it, but there is one more type of list. We'll not go too much in depth of it, which is less used, but I'll show you in that. So this is one thing. Apart from this, the next thing that you really need to understand is how to add images. Really simple, just say img, hit the tab key, and you get the image. Now you can reference this image via the same directory if it is in local, or you can just refer for something online. So I'll just show you a resource which is known as Pexels, and I'll choose one of my image that we'll be going through. So let me just pick up an image. I think this looks cool. So I'll just right click, copy the image address, go back up here, and simply paste it up here. Now the image will be taken up from the online, but there is a problem. If I save this right now, go back on to PW Skills, this image is too big. And this is a known problem. Since this is a known problem, that is why you can add more attributes. We'll talk about attributes, don't you worry. We have more attributes and we can say that, hey, I want to give you a width, and width will be, let's just say, a 400 pixels. I'll save this, and automatically it actually shrinks my image to a smaller resolution. So these are common problems and common things. Apart from this, you will also be using an anchor tab. A tag, also known as linking tag. This allows you to visit a website. For example, if I just go ahead and say https:// and I'll just go to google.com, very famous example, and I'll just say go to Google. Google, there we go. If I save this, notice here there is a small go to Google button here. And if I click on this, I'll be redirected to the Google web page. And there are some attributes available to this one as well. And each of these tags have some special attributes and some are global attributes. I'll walk you through with that example as well. Now, another attribute that you'll be seeing in the link tag is target. This target has a lot of options: blank, parent, and self, and top. You do not need to worry about all four of them. Just worry about one of them as of now, which is target_blank. If you don't put anything, it opens up in the same tab. But if you put up a target_blank, that means this link will now be opened up into a new tab, and that's a good thing. Depends on what is your use case. You want to allow your user to open the things or links from the same page or maybe in the next tab. This is why you use these attributes. Now this also brings us that how many of these attributes are there. For example, there is one attribute known as title. In the A tag, I can add this title and say this is a Google link. And similarly, I can use this A tag in H1 also. So if I go ahead and use this one here, there is a go title. This is a heading. Oops, if I can write this, there we go. This is a heading. So how do I really know that some tags can be used by everyone, while, for example, I cannot use this href tag in the H1. This is specially just for A tag. Now, when we study these special attributes and tags, for example, let's just say if I go ahead and look for links, where is the link? Links, here we go. It automatically teaches you about the attributes, like href is here, all of this. But if you really want to understand all the global attributes, then you have to search for it. So there is a list of global attributes. I'll just search for it here, and I'll just search for it global attributes, and there is a list of global attributes. So here is a list of global attributes. So attributes like access key, auto capitalize, autofocus, class, context menu, dir, draggable, hidden, ID. These are all available for every single one of them. Out of them, and there's a long list of here, you can just go ahead and read this list. Out of this list, we are just using one which is known as title. This is the one that we have been using. But again, there is a lot of lists. These global attributes means no matter what tag it is available for every single place. So again, there is so much, you don't have to worry. Don't get confused that, oh, there's so much to learn. No, there's not too much. It's just a breadth of HTML is too big. And this is only the things which we really need to know as of now to get started with a project. So now we're going to go ahead and get started with a project. It's not going to be too much of a big project, but it will give you a sense of how things actually can be done. And we'll be using a little bit of the stylings and whatnot and all these things. So it will be absolute basic. So let's go ahead and close this basic now, and we'll create another folder, and we'll call this one as project. It's not really a project, but hey, it's close enough to be called as project. Now here in the project, I'll name this as index.html. Now there is a history about index as well. Let me discuss that. So all these websites and web pages that you are creating will obviously be hosted on some web server available online, maybe Amazon Cloud, maybe Google Cloud, or anywhere. Now on these computers or servers, there is a program known as web server. It can be Apache web server, it can be Nginx. Now, these servers don't really know which file to load up and serve if somebody visits the web page. The web pages could be 1.html, 2.html, somebody might say a.html, first.html, so there is a lot of confusion around it. In order to resolve this confusion, it was unanimously decided that the first file which will be served via the web page in the directory will be index.html. Earlier, it used to be a confusion between the default.html and index.html. Now, everybody came with the unanimous vote that, hey, it will be always called as index.html. But still, some people call it as default. It works, but not a good practice. So we'll be going with index.html. That's the whole significance. This is the first file that automatically loads up from your web browser. That's it. Now, again, let's try to build a project. Now, there is no structure of this project. I just want to give you a brief idea about how the structures and page and everything is laid out. So we'll start with exclamation. Go ahead and start with that. And the first thing that we're going to change is going to be here. So instead of document, we'll be saying a gym website. Nothing else comes to my mind right now. So just a gym website. Feel free to design a juice website, a food bakery, whatever you like. We'll just go with that. This actually keeps things interesting. Now, since this is a gym website, I would love to have some of the web pages being designed up here in such a way that it really is kind of a gym website. So we'll start with this, a gym website, but we also want to put some meta tag, at least a description tag. So we'll just go with the meta and description, and we'll say fitness. Oops, come on, my keyboard is there. All right, a fitness center in the town. Or maybe we can say a best fitness center in the town. Totally up to you how you want to simply go ahead and work with that. I also would like to add an author, that who created this website. So I can just add a meta tag for it, and a meta : author, and it usually is a author, and author, there we go. No, it doesn't work that way, but there is a meta tag here with the author. So we can just go ahead and work with that. So usually it's almost like description. So what you can say is, instead of the name just like this, we can just change it as author. Yes, it is mentioned in a lot of documentation, and instead of the content here, the content remains the same. So you can write your name. I'll just go ahead and write my name. You go ahead and write your name. That's always a good idea. So similarly, you can just research a little bit more about the meta tags and go with that. All right. The first thing on any website, what we design is a navigation center of how the things are going to work. But before we go into navigation center, let me go ahead and look into the documentation a little bit more. What you'll see in the HTML elements is there are a lot of tags available here. Now, some of these tags are very old, like head tag, body tag, headers, and all of that. But what you'll notice in the recent version of HTML, there are some new tags available to you. Let me give you some examples of that as well first. So in any web page which is given, we know that there is always going to be a head portion, a navigation portion, a content portion, and then a footer portion. Earlier, we used to do it like this. There's also a property known as class. So what we used to do is div. I told you it's a container. And we used to give it a class name. So something like a class. This is again an attribute to later on design it with the CSS. And this is used to be called as nav. Then similarly, we used to have a div, which is going to have a class of main. Yes, dot is a shortcut for having the main. And similarly, we used to have div, which is going to have a footer. Now, this was such a common practice that HTML5 decided that, hey, this is a repetitive task and we can actually make it a little bit better. So instead of having this, they actually gave us some tag. Again, these are container tag. There is no difference between the div and the one we are about to do. So instead of this, they simply said, hey, now you can use a nav tag. Now you can use a main tag, and you can use a footer tag directly like this. This is how the modern HTML5 semantics are working. So again, really basic, really amazing. So we'll be using this syntax here. So this will actually give you an idea that how these modern tags are working. So first and foremost, we're going to go ahead and get started with the header. Now, header is usually the tag, which is the top portion of the website, the header portion. Header might include the navigation bar and some image or carousel or something like that. You might have seen those images which keeps on automatically scrolling. Yes, the technical name for that is carousel, but feel free to call it as image slider. No worries, no harm in that. Now, inside this header, the first thing that I'll introduce is a simple tagline for my gym. So we'll be saying something like this: welcome to the best gym in your area. What should we call this gym as well? Fit of it gym. Cool name. So I'll save this, and first I'll right click and open this up in the live server, and this is available. So we have this welcome to the best gym in your area, fit of it gym. It doesn't look the best, but hey, this is what we have. Maybe this is how we want to start. Then after that, it comes to my mind that there should be navigation here because I'll be creating more pages, maybe an about page, maybe a contact page, about to show what the gym is all about and what's my pricing, and then a contact page, maybe somebody wants to contact me. So I'll be creating a couple of pages for that. So for this, I'll be using a nav, which is a navigation link. So I'll be using nav tag. And inside this, the links are just a list item. So I'll be just using an unordered list. There we go. And how many pages? So let's just say we have 4 pages, 3 pages, however you like. So I'll just say in this list item and give me 4 of them. So I'll just say, hey, give me 4 of them. All right. So this is the basics that we have added. Now, right now, we can simply go ahead and say that, hey, this one is going to be a simple home. This one is going to be an about. This one is going to be, what else? Timing. And this one is going to be contact. So I can go ahead and use this. There is no problem. Right now, this is looking like this, but eventually in the future, I can learn CSS and make them on the top from left to right and all these buttons and beautiful. But this is how the navigation is actually created. But I'm not really happy with this home. This shouldn't be like this. This should be a clickable link. So I also know how to make a clickable link. I'll remove this, hit a line, enter, and then I'll say that, hey, I want an A tag here. And this A tag should be going to somewhere, wherever that about page is. Right now, the about page doesn't exist, but I can just go ahead and say in the current directory. How do you say current directory? You say simply /. So right now there is just index.html, but let's just say this one is going to be, yeah, same. We'll redirect to the home page just like this. Maybe from other pages also we want to copy paste. So we'll just call this one as home. Now this is a proper link about having a link up here. All right. So not only this, we can just go ahead and use some title here as well, because this can be title and we'll be calling it as homepage. Homepage. Save this. And now I can see that this home actually is now a link. And this one is much better as a navigation compared to about and timing. So what I can do is I can actually go ahead and place my cursor here, press the copy, remove this, paste it up here, remove this and paste it up here. And oops. Hit a line, enter, paste this up here, remove this, paste it up here. So this is a far better approach of having this. And instead of this index.html, maybe I'll have about. And then this one is going to be a page about timing.html. This one is going to be a page about contact.html. Right now there are no pages, so obviously they will not work. But this could be my page. I'll just remove this home page to about page. This one could be timing and pricing or timing page, or this could be a simple contact page. So there we go. I was successfully able to design at least the navigation bar. Home, everybody's saying home, shouldn't be saying like that. This one is going to be about, this one is going to be timing, and this one is going to be contact. So I told you how easy it is to understand when we see the use case of why the HTML is being used, what it's actually doing. I can just save this, and there we go. Now we have all the links available. They are not working, but eventually in the future they will. Now the best thing about the code editor is I can shrink my nav bar that, hey, this is my nav bar. I'm done with it. I don't want to see it much further. Great idea. Okay, now apart from this having a nav bar, let's just add a fitness image here. First, let's search for an image. So we'll just go up here. I don't have any fitness image as I remember, so I'll just search for it. I'll just say fitness. And let's see, there are a lot of cool images available up here. Which one is most impressive one? That's always something to decide. I'll probably choose this one. This one seems good and interesting to me, so I'll just select this one. So this image is pretty nice. I'll just go ahead and right click on this and copy image address. Although we can download this image and serve it locally, that's also totally fine. Just have to link it. Now, in order to have this, I can just go ahead and use the famous approach, which is just an image tag inside this add a source. We also know that we need to give a width, otherwise it will be too much of the width and height. So we'll be just going ahead and giving it 300 pixels. I think that is good enough. Let's go back onto this. And there we go. The image is looking pretty decent, whatever we are having. But there is also another way of adding this image, and that is also pretty exactly same. So I can just actually cut out this image portion. So just Command X, Control X to cut this out. And instead of adding the image like this, I can just go ahead and use another tag which is known as figure. Now this figure tag is actually a little bit more, you can say, elaborative than the image tag. You'll find a very less use case of that, except the scientific journals and papers where you want to have caption of each image. There are use cases for both. It's not like one is superior, one is bad. No, it's not like that. So inside this, you can just go ahead and paste your image. That's the first part of it. Now, once you have pasted this, then you can actually use another tag inside this known as fig caption. So this is the fig caption. Fig caption is nothing. It's just like a caption about what this image is all about. So this image is all about a person working out in our gym. So we'll just use that, save that. And what you'll notice is it just adds a small text, which is a part of the image. Now remember, you can just simply write this with a small paragraph as well, that hey, below the image, I want to just have a small paragraph, which can do exactly the same job. No problem at all. But when the screen readers are going to read your image, and at the point of accessibility, this one is a far more better approach. But again, there is no right and wrong in the HTML. This is always usually how it works. So this is the part, and again, it's totally up to you that you want to keep all of this inside the header, you want to keep it outside of the header, totally your choice. It's just a container. You want to use it, use it. If you don't want to use it, don't use it. Now, apart from this, once the header is all done, you can use one more tag, which is known as HR tag, known as horizontal ruler, which actually gives you this nice line from end to end. That actually sometimes denotes that the one portion of the web page is complete and all these things like that. Now, apart from this, what you're going to notice is, as we discussed, there is a main body of the web page. We can use this, but there are many other tags which are available to us in HTML. For example, there is a tag known as article. Again, it's a container. It doesn't do anything on its own, but there is an article tag. You can use it. And in here, we can just write something h2 about our gym. So right now I can comfortably write my h2, but I'm not really comfortable to write a whole paragraph about it. So what I can do in this one is I can use a paragraph, and I can use a lorem word of writing a 300 words and simulate that how the 300 words are going to look like on my web page. So this is about our gym that we have written. Now, not only that, we can use some kind of attributes here, like for example, this lorem ipsum. This ipsum is something an important text, so I can use some of the formattings here. For example, some of the formattings that I can use is make it a bold or make it a strong. There's a difference between them. So I'll just cut this out, and I'll say, hey, I want to use a strong tag here and paste the content inside it. Now I'll notice that the ipsum part is actually bold. So this is what the ipsum and the strong content means. Now there's a difference. What you'll notice is, for example, if I just cut out this emit and I use a U tag, not the U tag, actually B tag, to bold it out, you'll see there is no difference between the ipsum and the emit. They exactly look same. So why two different tags? Now these two are different from the perspective of the search engine. Search engine thinks that this is a strong, that means there is some important keyword in here. While if you use the B tag, it simply says, hey, this was bold out, there is no significance of it, this is just a visual aesthetic. So this is how the basic works. Now there are a lot of such formatting tags available. You can just look for them, and if you'll see this formatting, HTML formatting, you'll find a lot of them. If I'll just go at the very end of it, you'll find that there is a B tag, emphasis tag, I tag, small, strong, superscript, subscript, delete, all of them. And it's always a good idea that you go ahead and try this out. For example, I don't know what this delete tag does. I can actually just click on it, open this up, and can see what this is going to do. Try it myself to see what's actually it is doing. It just makes a scratch off, like it just line through it. So I can just use it. For example, next time I want to use this 𝐏𝐶𝐂𝐒, this is Latin. So I can use the del tag. So delete tag and write inside it, save this, and can go back onto my website, and I can easily see that this tag actually performs like this. So these are very basic smaller formatting tag. As you will be building more things, you will be able to just work through with them, no problem at all. So this is my article that I have written, but there are more things that you can write. Now one thing that you might have noticed is on some of these websites what happen is we do have aside content as well. There is a sidebar, there's aside content, so there are more containers. There are nothing more than a container, I tell you again. So this is what we have aside, and inside the aside we can write more tags and containers for it. For example, I'll just have an h3 here, and this will be saying special features of gym. And as soon as I write this, you'll see there is no difference at all. This is special feature of the gym. So this is working exactly like that, but for the styling purpose, it makes it easier to connect with them, contact with them. And then there is another container that you can use known as details. Again, just like Dev told you, this is the best way to explore the things while building the stuff. So there is a details. Inside the details, you can go ahead and use a summary tag. And inside the summary is how our gym is so special. So I can just write a summary of this, and then I can use a paragraph tag. I'm not going to be writing anything inside it. I'll just throw some lorem words, maybe 140 words inside this paragraph. I'll just go up here, save this, and then I'll shrink it. Now notice here what it does is I just need to add a little bit more paragraph under the details so that you can actually see it much more easily. And I'll just throw in a paragraph with a lorem of 200 words. Save this. Now it's easy for me to scroll and show you this. So this is how our gym is special. And I can open this up and find this paragraph here. Okay. So you can see there is 2 paragraphs. If I shrink this, there is now 1 paragraph. So this is the advantage of how we can actually go ahead and use this. So this second paragraph is nice, but when I use something known as detail, then I can use the summary tag and the paragraph. Summary is all time visible, but this paragraph tag is only visible when somebody clicks on it. Told you, so many things, so many amazing things that we can work on with this. All right, so that now you know a little bit basics about how the details, summary and everything works. Let's also talk about tables, one of the key important aspect of how things are going to be working. I'll just close this article so that we have talked about this element. Now let's talk about tables. Now tables are really important and very interesting as well. For this we can take a reference from this attributes up here. So we'll just close this one, and there's HTML tables. These are very important. That's why a dedicated section is given to us. So this actually article allows us to get a simple overview of what the HTML tables are. They are really super easy. Once you understand how the tabular data is displayed, most of the work is done via the CSS, but there is still a lot of work that you can do with just the HTML. And there are table basics available here, that how you want to design this table. Yes, you can design this table as well. A whole lot of tables are being designed in such a way. Now, apart from this, there's a table structure and advanced options. So I'll walk you through, don't you worry. I'll walk you through with the tables and how this stuff works. Now there is a structure that you can add in the table known as T-head, T-foot, T-body and all that. We'll be using them. Don't you worry on that part. Now if you want to take a reference, I'll just close all these other tabs which are just distracting for us as of now. We can just close all of them. Yeah, this looks good. Now, as if I go into the W3 schools again and I click on the tables, you'll see that this is kind of a table that they design. We'll design our table a little bit different than this, but hey, these are options which are available to us as well. So the couple of things that we can do is first try it ourselves to see how the table structure works. Our table is not going to look like this grayish and everything because we won't be adding any styles. So I can just go ahead and in fact remove all the styles to see that how our table is going to look like. I'll just run this by removing all the styles. So this is how our tables are going to look like. But we definitely can add some borders to our table so that it looks at least decent in our case. So we won't be adding any stylings or anything like that. But we can add borders to our table. So if there is something, yeah, there is a table borders and this is one. All you have to do is all these tables can be using the border 1 pixel solid black. Just like this. So let me just find this and where we can have the styling. This is too much of styling, don't want that. but we'll be adding just the basic styling. So I think this one is good enough. Although I won't be recommending you to have this much of styling, but let's just say for the sake of this video, let's just go ahead and grab this much of styling, paste it in the head part. We haven't discussed the styling, but let's just say for the fun part, we are having this styling. We'll just copy paste this styling to have the borders around our table, and we understand this. So this is how the table structure looks like. We actually encapsulate everything inside the table. Then we have table row, and inside that we have the table head, which are the heads. So company and all of this, these are table heads, also known as T head. We can actually encapsulate that. And then we have this table row. Again, everything is a row. And inside this, we want to have table data. And this is the first row that we have. So Alfred, Maria, and Germany. So these are the first row that we have. Everything in this table is designed in the format of rows. So we have a lot of table rows, just like this. So super easy to work on with. Now let's see that how we can actually manipulate this table. Now not only this, the table sometimes have something known as how many of the columns you want to work with. So you can actually design some of the row spans, that how many row spans and everything that you want to work with this. So I'll just give you example of this one, and we'll try to have this one. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and grab a table. So first and foremost table. As soon as you write the table, there will be nothing inside this. What we'll be doing is we'll be adding a caption. So what this table is all about? So this table is all about pricing for gym. Okay, good enough. Once we have this caption, let's see how the table actually looks like at this point of time. So we can see the pricing for gym is right now. The caption should be not like that. Let's see, and there is a pricing for gym. So there we go, really at the bottom. So what I'll do is just outside of this main, we'll add a paragraph and we'll add a lorem of 300 words so that we at least see them. And then we're going to just shrink it down so that we can see where the table is actually. So this is right now saying pricing for gym. This is not taking any advantage of the files. Even the caption is to shrink it down, something like that. Now inside this table, the first portion that we are going to use is T head, which is also known as the heading part of it. Inside this, we'll be going with a TR. This is the table row. Everything inside the table is a part of a row. Then we'll be having a TH for the table heading. All right. What this heading is all about is there will be different pricings and plans and all of that. So we'll be saying something like type of workout. We'll be saying type of workout. Now, as soon as I do this type of workout, you'll notice that we have changed this a little bit. Pricing for the gym, type of workout is at least given and visible to us. Now, in order to see the proper things, we'll take advantage of one of the this styling that we have. So we'll just copy this, take some advantage of the copying and pasting, and we'll be actually pasting it at the very top, just below the title, so that we can see how many columns and rows are there and how the table is structured. So right now, this is how it looks like, just one column, one row, type of workout. Now, further down the road, what we can do is we can add more things into this heading. So what I'll do is I'll add two more. So I'll just copy and paste this one. And this one is going to say type of workout, and then we'll be having a pricing, and not pricing, I'll say the duration first. Duration, and there we go. Duration, duration, and then we'll go with the price. So at least our header of our table is now done. This is how it looks like: type of workout, duration, and the price. All right. Now there's also a concept known as the rows and actually merging of the rows and columns. I'll walk you through with that. So this is our T head, and we'll just wrap this up. This is all done. We don't want to add anything inside the table head. Now, apart from this table head, we also have the option of adding the table body. Now, the table body consists usually all the body information that you want to have. So it's super easy, T body. We'll just go with that. Now, as just I mentioned previously, everything is inside the table row. So go ahead and never hesitate to put up a table row. Then inside this, we'll just put up some heading. So again, this is a row part. Remember, how do we actually put this? Type of workout, then the duration, and then the pricing. So let's go ahead and do this. So we'll first say that this is going to be, we'll just have two plans. This one is going to be weightlifting. This is weightlifting. But again, we cannot just go ahead and say TR into this one. We need to actually put it into the table heading. So we'll just say TH and we'll say this is my weightlifting. And then we do have table heading is there. Then we'll be saying table data. And this one is going to be saying, okay, how many plans we should be having. So we'll be having a plan of, first, let's just say this is 1 month. And one more, this one is going to cost you 300 rupees. Save that, or we'll just say 300 rupees. Very, very, very cheap gym. So notice here, we have just mentioned this, that the type of workout is weightlifting. If you do go for 1 month, duration in month, so you'll get 300 rupees charge. So this is the table that we were able to build. Now we can definitely go ahead and copy paste this one couple of more times. So we'll just copy and paste this one. So now what we can do is we can again say weightlifting. This time we'll say 3 months. This one will be what, I don't know, 500 rupees. And we can just get one more this of table row. And we can just say it one more, copy and paste. This one is, let's just say 6 months. And I don't know, any arbitrary price, 900 rupees. So notice here, this is how this looks like. So we have this weightlifting, 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 1, 3, 6. This is the basic and the most classic way of doing the things. But as we can see, this weightlifting is actually spanning for 3 rows, 1, 2, 3. We can see that this is same, this is same, this is same. So there are cases when you want to collapse such thing, then you can use something known as a row span or column span. If you want to span up to rows or you want to go with the columns, totally up to you. So in here, you can use a property in the heading. I can just go ahead and say that this TH is going to use a property known as row span and will be going till the 3 values. So save this. Now what this will actually do is it is messing up some more things because we want to remove this first. This was the basic. We'll remove this, the basic, and save this. Now what this will do is now the entire thing is spanning across the 3 rows. That's why the row span is there. If you want to span something for the columns, just use the col span and 1, 2, 3, how many columns you want to consume. So in this case, we are saying that the weightlifting and the pricing for 1, 3, and 6 months is like this. And similarly, we can design something for the cardio. The best part is you don't need to do everything again. You can just copy this, all of this, copy this, and just hit an enter, paste this. This time, instead of the weightlifting, this one is for cardio, and we'll go with almost the same plan. Notice here how beautifully we were able to design this weightlifting and cardio pricing section. And maybe we want to add some table footer as well. So let's just go ahead, maybe some discounting and everything is there. We'll just shrink this table body and we'll have the T foot, table foot. And in the table footer, maybe we want to add a table row again. And this time we'll be having a table data. This table data will say personal training. Personal training, and the charges of the personal training, maybe you want to add them as well. So the charges is going to be 500 rupees. Very, very cheap gym. And notice here, this is not looking good. This time we want to consume the column span, and at least 2 columns should be consumed by personal training, and the 500 should be up here. That will look much better. So this is our use case, how we can actually use this. Come up here and say this time we want a column span. How many columns you want to span? I want to span 2 columns. Save this. Now notice it, this looks nice. So any complex structure that you can design in the table is just a matter of row span and the column span. That's it. There is nothing more than it. So you can design as much as you like, just like this. And of course, we are using a little bit of CSS, but I think that's not a big deal. We can simply go ahead and use this. All right, so this is all about the tables, and this is the most complex table that you're going to design. A lot of people work out with the timetable examples and all of that. You can try them as well and try to build them up. Let's go ahead and try to explore one such example. Just search it on your own. So timetable, HTML, example, and just look for some images. I'm pretty sure a lot of images will come up. So this is the one you can try and use this. Notice here, this is just having a column span. So lab is spanning through the column of 1, 2, and 3. Lunch is spanning to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 on the rows. This one lab is on the column side. Pretty easy, no worries at all. If you have to design this, pretty simple. This one is spanning through all the rows. So hours there first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 row, span 6. That's it. That is it. There is nothing too much. Lunch, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 of the columns are spanned. Project, row, column, both. So this time 1 and 2 in the column and 1 and 2 in the row. So both properties you need to use. So there is so much of exercise that you can try out. There is no shortage of this. We really don't want to go into something like this because this requires a little bit of CSS. Go with the core HTML one, something like this. Feel free to use any one of them. They all look. Timetable is one of the best example that you can go ahead and try out. All right, so this was all about your tables. Now let's go ahead and work on the footer. Oh, one more thing I forgot to tell you, that one of the great advantage of using the head and body is that I can actually chop off this head, cut this out and place it even below the footer. This will still be the table's head. Yeah, that's one of the things which actually you get. So notice here I refresh it, no changes at all. This still is the head of the body. Why would anybody in their sane mind would actually declare the table head at the bottom of the table? But yeah, so yeah, that's awesome. All right, so table part is all done. Now one more of the element is remaining. I'd like to walk you through with that. This is known as footer. There is nothing magical about it, just a container, footer. And it usually has a paragraph which says something like copyright by whatever XYZ, and then a year or a company name, something like. And usually there is a copyright symbol as well. You can grab them by simply saying %COPY. These are special elements and you can have them, and this actually denotes something like this. So notice here there's a small c. Yeah, that's %. So these are titles again. There are a lot of them. We call them as character entity or the Unicode characters or the character entities. There are a lot of names for them. But whenever you need them, just search for them. You'll be able to find them. Super easy to grab them. So, all right, I hope you have enjoyed this. When we go ahead and approach things from a project perspective, they are super amazing, super beautiful to work on with that. All right, so let's try a little bit more to this project because we want to study a little bit more. This time we'll have a little bit of the revision and then we'll go much more faster from that point onwards. All right, so first what we're going to do is in the project, we'll create a new file. Actually, let's see what file we should be creating. And inside the header, inside the nav, let's create a contact.html. All right. We'll be creating a new file. Let's call this one as contact.html. Now inside the contact.html, we'll just go with exclamation sign and like this, absolute basics. And we'll be calling this one as contact page, for gym. All right, now inside the body, we'll go with the absolute basics. So let's have a revision for this one. So h1 tag will be saying contact us or gym, contact the gym for registration. There we go. And after this, we usually are going with the nav bar. So let's go ahead and use the nav bar. Inside the nav bar, again, we can have unordered list. We can have the list item. Let's just say we have 4 of them. That's absolute basic. We can have an A tag just like this. And the first A tag might go to the index.html. And this will be saying as home. Let's go ahead, right click and open it up with the live server again. I'll go up here and we'll just go ahead and utilize this one. And we can actually paste it up here. So there we go. Now we have this home. We don't have others. I can click on this and I can move on to the home page. Again, I can go back to contact and can go to the contact page. So at least that much is working. We can also come up here and take this entire header along with the HR, copy this and paste it into contact so that we can see what is happening. So I'll just go ahead and how much we copied? We copied the entire header. So all right. So we'll wrap everything up inside this. There we go. And we save this. And what is happening? All right, so we have all the navigation bar, our link, everything working fine, everything looking absolutely awesome. But now we want to study a little bit more than just the header. Now let's also create a main section and we'll try to get some form as well because forms are also important and interesting. you'll find that there is usually a separate section for the forms. They are very, very crucial, very important. They are one of the ways how you can take input from the user apart from the mouse clicks. They are super important. And you'll see a separate section here like HTML forms, attributes, element, input types. There's a lot about them to study. But we'll go with a little bit of the basic kind of a form that how we can actually go and work with that. So we'll just go up here and let's use this header. Let's close this out and we'll actually go a little bit here. And let's try to have a main. Inside this we'll have a section. Again, HTML elements are working at their best. H2, and we'll be saying contact using this form. How does this looks? Should be looking beautiful. There we go. Contact using this form. Now, when we contact using this form, we first need to create a form. The easiest way to create a form is actually have this form. There are two types of form, the get and post. We'll not go too much in detail because right now just learning the HTML, it's not a good idea to talk about the server side, how the data is being sent, processed and all of that. We'll just for fun, we'll use something known as get. It says action and method is get. That's completely ignorable right now. We'll just use a hash here because we don't want to send the form anywhere at all right now. Now inside this you can use a lot of things, but I'll walk you through with the basic form as well, and I'll walk you through with the complex form, or not complex but something more than just the basics. So if I go ahead save this, right now there is nothing, but if I go into the HTML form, if I want to bring this kind of a form, you'll notice how they are actually working. They're simply saying form, action and everything. Then they are producing a label and then a line break, and then there is an input element that they are using. So we'll be just going with that first and foremost. Let's copy this here so that we can see what is happening, and then we'll be designing our own. So I'll just copy and paste this one and I'll tab this, indent a little. So as soon as I do this, what happens on my contact page is I get this first name and a John. Okay, let's see what are the values and input, how this is being designed. The first is the label, which is designed and is saying first name, just like we have H1, this is one. This is just a BR tag which is giving us a line break. Alright, this is not a worrisome. This is a label which says for first name. I'll talk about the importance of the first name. The whole idea is when I click on this first name at the top, automatically the form gets highlighted and my cursor gets into it. That's what this for is for. If you go ahead and change it to just the name and save it, now it will not be able to do the same task. If I click on the name, my form doesn't get highlighted. But if I go ahead and name it as exactly fname, why fname? Because the ID here and the name, sorry, not ID, the name here is being used as fname. If it would be just name here, then I have to mention this name as name here. And when I save this, now the same action will be triggered. Sorry, we have to change it in the ID. Not the name, my bad. And I can click on this and the same action will be performed. So there are a lot of advantage of having this. So label is just the basic. There is nothing super important. In case of instead of label, you can use p tags and all these things. The only advantage of label is when you click on this, your forms also get highlighted if the ID also matches with them. Now the next one is actually the input tags. So what this input tag is about, this input tag is super simple. The most important part is what type of input tags you want to have. There are a lot of types of input tags that you can have. As soon as you type input, notice here there is a button, checkbox, color, date, email, month, image, number, password. There's a lot of type of input things. For example, if you go ahead and select the password type, and I'll just save this. Now whenever you type anything inside this, this actually becomes the password type. Similar to this, if I go ahead and use not this type of input, if I go ahead and say, hey, I want to have an input type of, let's just say color, you can go ahead and now we'll be able to pick colors up here. So I can click on this and I can choose color values. So that color value will propagate at the back end. So there is a lot of type of input tags that you can use, and there is no harm, no wrong inside this. You can go ahead and use this. Now every single form should also have a button which says type submit. Button, and the type needs to be submit. All the information which is there inside the form is being sent to the server, and this type of submit button is actually able to do that. You can name it anything like send, send email, send to server, submit, whatever you like. There is no problem in it. This is the button. Now notice here the button is actually wrapped inside the form. This should be always and always inside the form in order to make sure that this is a part of the form. All the information is being submitted. Now, not only this, this is one way of designing the form. You can see that we have the name and the color. Maybe this is the use case. We want to send the name and the color. This is our use case. But there are more of these use cases that you can actually work with that. So for example, one of the way of designing this is actually have this field set. Once you have this field set, then you can actually set the legends as well. So this is one interesting one. In the legend, I can simply say send me or send the gym as message. Send the gym a message, something like this. Once I save this, notice here there is a square box and the legend actually remains at the top of this box, and now I can just design the form inside this. So I'll just keep every form as inside the p tag. It's not compulsory that the p tag should always have a text. You can have other elements. So I'll just have a label, and this label will be for name, and this will be saying something like this, name, colon. And apart from this, we'll be having an input. This input will be of type text. So I'll just search for the text. There we go. And this name will be of for name, and the ID is also going to be name so that we can have this. Now this is a basic form. Notice here this name looks nice, but I can also have a placeholder inside it. So placeholder can be like something like this. Enter your name. Now this is just a suggestion value. Notice here, as soon as you start writing something into it, this automatically goes away. While on the other hand, if you go ahead and enter something known as a value, then it doesn't go away. So if I just go ahead and say Hitesh, then automatically the value will be Hitesh. It will not be a placeholder. If I click up here and start writing, the previous value still remains there. So make sure you cautiously use that. Either you are using value or you're using placeholder. So it's totally up to you how you want to use that. So similarly, we have this input and all these things. We can actually copy this paragraph and have a duplicate. And this time maybe you want to have an email also. So this can be of type email, so that automatically checks whether there is an @ and all of that. The name is going to be email again. So I'll just duplicate my cursors here. It's easier. And I'll just say email. And there we go. Looks nice, and enter your email. This should be also a part of it. Save this, go back. Now you have your name, email, and notice here the send button, although is outside, but still it will be working absolutely fine, because visually it looks like that it's not part of a field set, but field set doesn't really matter much. What matters is the form. Form is the most important thing in this place. Now sometimes you'll see that, hey, people actually have this send button or maybe a reset button. Reset. There we go. Right now the form is not going to reset anything. Obviously this needs to be something else. This doesn't mean this is going to be a type of submit. And there we go. But again, it will not work. Right now this looks just aesthetically pleasing. Alright, so this is our contact form for the gym. We have learned a lot about this. And let's just say after this main, we want to have address, because it's a contact page. Address should be there. So we can actually add this address into the footer. So wherever you like, you can go ahead and add this. I'll just add it into footer. Inside the footer, we will have an h2 again, and we'll be saying our address. Address usually can be planted inside an p tag. That's no problem at all. But there is also a special tag available to you known as address, and inside this you can say, for example, I'll just say 507 New Delhi. I don't know if it is a real address or not. Hope it's not for somebody. New Delhi, and then we'll be saying 10010, some pin code, something like that. We will also add some kind of a landmark, maybe a landmark near main road. Okay, I don't know if it is a landmark or not, but all right. We'll also like to give a phone number, but after a line break. So we'll just add 2 line breaks, BR and BR. And let's just say test. Okay, let's see how does this looks. So this is our address, nicely formatted, and then there's a test. Now here's the interesting part. So we want to give a phone number, so I can just write phone. And now instead of just writing a phone number, what you can do is you can use a tags again, and which can be of type of tel. And then you can actually mention what kind of phone number it will be. So for example, I'll just add my phone number 91, and then 123 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so this is my personal phone number. Just kidding. And you can give the phone numbers here as well. So, all right. So now what the advantage of having the links inside the phone number is, there is no visual aspect of it, but if anybody is viewing your website on mobile phone, he can just click on it and the call automatically will be dialed to him. So that's one advantage of it. And later on you can add the footer as well. So as you can see, there is so much that you learn as you build the things on the go, and later on the CSS you can just design these things and place it better. Maybe the navigation is all in one row, maybe this contact form is smaller and at the center of the page, maybe this image is from left to right. This could be beautiful aesthetically. Now there is one more thing which we should be discussing about it, is known as accessibility. Accessibility, is there something? So what, there it is, accessibility. So accessibility is really an important concept because what happens is sometimes you are visiting a website, you find that, hey, everybody visits like this, but there are some people who wants to access your website just with the keyboard. Maybe they are using your website via some screen readers. They have some visual disabilities. They want to use this. So in that case, you want to use the accessibility features. It's always a good idea. There are a lot of ARIA tags about it, which actually helps you to have this accessibility and all of that. Although this is a great topic and a really in-depth topic, I'm just touching it briefly so that you see that, yeah, there is some importance of accessibility here and we should be talking about it and we can go through with that. Now, this is all what we'll be doing as the project basics. So definitely feel free to try more pages like this. This is just one that we have done with it. So we have still more pages, try them out, have more tags and all this. Although I've tried my best to give you as much information as possible in just a one video. But again, going back up here, you can see there's so much more to discuss about. Maybe we didn't got a chance because we were building a gym website. We didn't got a chance to have a computer codes. So how we can have this? There are so many ways how we can design the computer code. So for example, KBD for keyboard input, or a code to simply have a code. Maybe you are building a coding website. So how we can do this to have a simple code? Let me show you an example of it. Probably there is no example as of now. No, they are just going with all the maths. So you can just go ahead and try this out. Let me show you actually, that would be much better and easy. Going back with the 1.html and we'll be going up here before the body and we'll be saying simple a code. Now inside this, whatever I write, for example, I write some of the JS code, console, and we'll be saying hello, if I can write this. Hello, and then a semicolon, and then we'll be declaring a function, and we'll be saying say hello. Now, as we have seen that it's not really possible in the world of HTML to have these kinds of line breaks and syntax to be preserved. But when you add something like code, it actually preserves that. So I'll be just saying function say hello, and it literally just says console.log, just like this. And it says I am going to say hello. Yeah, hello. All right. So if I go ahead and save this, notice here my constant and everything is just messing this up. But let me show you what it's actually going to happen on the code. So notice here in the console, the syntax is a little bit different. We have console.log and functions and all of this. So this is much better. Although my prettier is actually kicking in, that's why it's formatting all these things. Shouldn't be doing that. I can actually just allow this prettier, should be stopping as of now. So can I stop this for a minute? I need to actually do this manually. I'll just show you and I'll just say formatting. And I'll say format line on save. No, please don't save this. And I'll just go back and I'll just save this. So now no formatting is happening. And now if I go ahead and refresh this page, notice here, this is still in the code syntax. So this is actually a different syntax and structure. Not only that, you can actually try a lot more than this. There is a sample program output you want to keep and preserve this. So instead of the code, maybe you want to have a samp. So save this, go back. There are different stages and syntax structure. So this is a little different, not too much, but yeah, they are different. So there are a lot of ways and example of how you can actually try it and work on with that. All I'm saying is there is so much more to learn and understand. There is semantics that we have studied a little bit. header, navbar. We have touched a lot of them. But obviously we cannot touch all of them until unless we do more projects, and there is no point of keep on watching the tutorial for understanding this. HTML entities, we briefly touched it, but as you saw, there is so much more. We touched just the copyright symbol, this one, and the end copy. But there is more, euros, yen. You can go ahead and try this out. There is character set, there is a URL encode, there is forms, there is media, how we can inject the medias as well. For example, we only touched how we can inject the media of image, but there is more. We can learn more about the videos. So for example, if you go into the video section up here, if I'll go back here in the HTML docs, you have to use the docs very carefully and from both the resources, not just here. So notice here multimedia embedding, and in the video and audio content, if I click on this, they give you so much of the ways of how you can inject the video. So this is the video and multiple sources and whatnots and how the video tracks. There's so much to study in this one. So notice here basic of the video can be injected by this video. And if you want to study more about this, you can just search for it that I want to study about the video embedded element. And they will give you a nice example of how the video tags. Not only this, you will get more of these things. For example, controls, control list. This is one really interesting because this actually allows you to have more features. For example, you want to disable no full screen, no download, no remote playback. So all these things are done through the tags or attributes, controls, and then the control list. So you can go ahead and search for it. In here, what they are doing is they're just giving you the basics of it. For example, at the top, they're not doing this controls. They are simply saying controls, not the control list. That's why you are able to see the play button, these buttons of playbacks and pictures. But if I go back and use this control list and I just copy this, this is how you actually learn. Go through the documentation and I'll just come up here, enter a couple of lines and give a control list. Notice here it's re-rendering. Now if I click on this, only picture in picture, nothing else. But if I go ahead and make it Command Z, remove this, it will re-render. Now I get all the options. So this is how you practice, play around. There is so much to learn about the medias, the images, the audios and everything. And I don't think so the great way of learning is just by going through the documentation or just line by line reading the entire W3 schools. That's never going to get through it. Build some projects, make some stuff, maybe a gym website. Maybe you don't know CSS, that's okay. Build a website for gym, maybe build a website for juice, maybe build a website for cars. Just whatever you know in the HTML, whatever the best, just try this out. The whole idea behind this video was to simply get you up and running with HTML and you are not afraid of it. Now before we move ahead on to ending this video, I would like to show you one more thing which will actually skill you up a lot more. So I'll just go back again to the 𝐏𝐇𝐘𝐒 cheat sheet and we'll show you something interesting here. Now 𝐏𝐿 actually is super powerful and is known for generating a lot of quick HTMLs and all of that. For example, just look at this grouping section. It just saying is there is a div. Inside this div, I want a header. Then inside the header, I want an unordered list and the list item, two list item and an anchor tag inside it. Then plus means sibling. Arrow means inside this means child. Plus means sibling, means brother and sister, like that. Then I want a footer and a paragraph. So if I go ahead and copy this for a minute and I'll show you something interesting in a new basic. So let's just create a new onto this one. 2.html. You'll be surprised to know that how much you can do things faster with the 𝐏𝐿. So notice here what this is saying. I'll just comment this out for you so that you can also see this later on. But notice here, if I just go ahead and say, hey, I want a div. Inside this div, I want a header. I can just go ahead and get this. But if I go ahead and say header plus a footer, I get a header plus footer. So notice here very carefully, I'll walk you through again. If I go ahead and say inside the div, I want a header, you will get that. So if I go ahead and say header, you will get that. But if you want two elements inside it, means they should be sibling, then use a plus sign and then you can say I want a footer, then one more, maybe a paragraph, and you can get three of them. Now, using this knowledge along with the combination knowledge which is given to us by the parenthesis, I can say the div. Inside this, if I just say I want a header and inside this I want an unordered list, this will look like this. It will keep on increasing the things inside it. I don't want that. Here it's saying a little bit different, so we can use this one. So I'll show you what this above example is saying. Inside the div, I want a group of element. What this group of element will say, I want a header inside it. Inside the header, I want an unordered list. Obviously, inside the unordered list, I'll have a list item. And inside the list item, how many list items? Let's just say we want 4 of them. And inside this, I want an A tag. Now this header will be generated, but sibling of the header should be a footer. So I'll just say, hey, let's just give it a sibling. This will be a footer. Inside the footer, I want a paragraph, maybe extend it to one more version. Inside the paragraph, I want an A tag, and maybe I want 2 A tags. So I'll just multiply it by 2. It looks really complex. It's not once you understand this. When I hit the tab, notice here how much of HTML was generated to me within just seconds. Header, we have an unordered list, we have list items, anchor tags. Footer, inside the footer, we have 2 anchor tags. We can move it on to the next line to make it look a little bit different. And there we go. How easy it is to generate this much of the HTML code. So as I'm saying, there is so much to learn about the 𝐿. Just spend good amount of time here. You'll learn a lot about the tags and most used tags. For example, there is input type of number. You can generate this. We actually saw this input type of telephone numbers. And then there is lot more to links, CSS, meta tags, scriptings, buttons, whatnot. And notice here, this one is HTML:4s to generate the HTML4 version, �ＨTML_XT, �HTML_XS, previous tags. Now, all of them doesn't work with the VS Code because a version of the 𝐿 is embedded in the VS Code, not the exact 𝐿, but it works very closely. But you'll find that some of the tags doesn't work, which are outdated, not being used much, but still. Similarly, there is a lot of CSS work that you can do, like if you want to have the classes, you want to have IDs, it generates. So this one is the 𝐿 abbreviation, this one is the 𝐿 output that will be there. So custom attributes, you want anything, there is so much. It is worth spending your entire day or two, or even if you spend a week, I wouldn't mind it at all, to understand more about 𝐿. That will make your life so much playful in writing HTML. You will never feel just like a lazy guy, I don't want to write this much, because 𝐿 gives you shortcut. If you know shortcuts, you can generate a lot of this. So this is all about HTML, and there is a lot more in the 𝐿. There's CSS as well. It is definitely worth spending time. I spend it, I still to this date love it, but I don't know entirety of the thing. I still keep on exploring the things, keep them making as my habit, but it's not that much easy. So I hope this tutorial was helpful for you to understand HTML in one go and one shot. The best way, as I said, is always to build something. So we tried out with the basics first, then we went into the projects. We built up 2 projects, not projects, but yeah, good pages. We also learned about the tables as well. Now you can design any kind of timetable or anything that you have in mind. Again, don't try to do PhD in HTML. Whatever you have learned in this one is more than enough. Now jump into the next phase of the things, learning about maybe Tailwind, maybe CSS, maybe JavaScript. Move on to the next phase. If you have watched this till now, I think that is more than enough, more than good for you, and that's all. So that's it for this video. I'm pretty sure we're going to catch up in another such video. And till then, bye-bye, and I'll surely meet you up in another such video.